Learning Comfy UI is like opening a technical book at the last page. Everything is there, but nothing makes sense yet. This course starts from page 1. Before we go any further, I want to be very clear about how this course works. This is not a shortcuts course. It is not about copying workflows without understanding them. Each chapter builds on the previous one. We start simple, repeat the important ideas, and only add complexity when it actually makes sense. You do not need any coding knowledge. You do not need to be technical. If you can think visually, you can learn Comfy UI. If you want to understand how AI image generation really works locally and how to use Comfy UI without feeling lost, this course is for you. My name is Pixaroma, and on this channel I focus on creating and teaching Comfy UI workflows in a simple and practical way. I am a graphic designer, not a programmer, and that is actually a good thing. Developers are great at writing code, but they often explain things in a very technical way. This course is designed from a visual thinker's perspective. My goal is to explain Comfy UI logically and visually, without needing any coding knowledge. Even if Comfy UI looks confusing right now, that is completely normal. We will start from the absolute basics and build up step by step. But before we talk about Comfy UI itself, we first need to understand what AI image generation actually is. Today, AI is not just one thing. There are many different AI models that can run locally on your own computer, such as Stable Diffusion, Flux, Qwen, and many others. It is also important to understand that Comfy UI is not limited to image generation. Comfy UI is a general interface for running many different types of AI models locally. While it is most popular for image generation, it can also be used for audio, music, video, animation, 3D, and more. As long as a model can be connected through nodes, Comfy UI can be used as the interface to control it. These models by themselves are like an engine. They are very powerful, but you cannot really use them directly. To work with them, we need an interface. An interface is what allows us to send prompts, images, and settings to the model, and then receive results back. There are many free interfaces that let us interact with these models. Some popular ones are Forge UI, Swarm UI, Invoke, Focus, and of course, Comfy UI. They often use similar models, but they work in very different ways. In this course, we are going to focus on Comfy UI. Comfy UI is different because it is node-based. Instead of hiding everything behind buttons and menus, it shows you exactly what is happening step by step. You can see how prompts, models, samplers, and images are connected together, like building a system. Think of it like this. The AI model is the brain. The interface is how you talk to that brain. Comfy UI is like building your own control panel, exactly the way you want. Do not worry if this still feels complex. Understanding comes from seeing things connect, not from memorizing nodes. In this course, I will explain what each node does, why it exists, and how everything connects together. Before we install anything, we need to talk about how you will actually run Comfy UI. There is more than one way to use Comfy UI, and the right choice depends on your system and your expectations. Let's go to the official Comfy UI website to see the available options. The official website is comfy.org. If we go to the Products section, you can see that there are two main options, Comfy UI Cloud and Local Comfy UI. Comfy UI Cloud runs online on their servers, and it is a paid service. This option can be useful if your computer is too old or not powerful enough to run AI models locally. Local Comfy UI is free and runs directly on your own computer, assuming you have a reasonably capable system. This is the option we will focus on in this course. So let's click on Local Comfy UI. Here you can see three main installation options: download for Windows, for macOS, and install from GitHub. All of these options install Comfy UI, but there are important differences between them. In this course, I will focus on Windows operating system using the portable version of Comfy UI. All the workflows, tools, and installers I show are tested on Windows using an NVIDIA graphics card. On AMD graphics cards and on macOS, performance is usually slower, and some features or custom nodes may not work exactly the same way. So if you are using Windows with an NVIDIA card, it will be much easier to follow this course step by step as I show it. Because there are many different AI models, hardware requirements can vary a lot. Some models are small and can run on a graphics card with 6 to 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Other models are much larger and may require more than 24 gigabytes of VRAM. For this first episode, I tested the workflows on two different systems. One system uses an RTX 2060 with 6 gigabytes of VRAM and 64 gigabytes of system RAM. The second system uses an RTX 4090 with 24 gigabytes of VRAM and 128 gigabytes of system RAM. For the workflows in this episode, a graphics card with 6 to 8 gigabytes of VRAM should be enough to follow along. In later episode, we will explore newer and larger models that may require more powerful hardware. Now let's talk about which version of Comfy UI you should install. As I mentioned earlier, I am using the portable version of Comfy UI. If we click on Install from GitHub, we are taken to the official Comfy UI GitHub page. Here you can find detailed installation instructions, but they require more manual steps and setup. Over the past year, I have been using a portable version of Comfy UI that includes additional tools to make the installation process much easier. This installer installs the original Comfy UI, but it also adds helpful tools so you can get up and running much faster. This installer is called Comfy UI Easy Install. You can find it on this GitHub page. You can find the creator on our Discord community under username Ivo. Thank Ivo for this installer. This entire course is built around this version of Comfy UI. You can still use Comfy UI Desktop or Comfy UI Cloud, but some things may look different or behave differently compared to what you see in this course. If you want the exact same setup that I use and the easiest way to follow along, I recommend using the same version. Let me show you how to install Comfy UI. So we are on the Easy Install GitHub page. This is the complete link. If we scroll down, you can read more about this installer. Even if you might not understand what each of these things means yet, it will make sense later as you learn more about it. I will talk later about the Pixaroma Discord server, where you can get more help and answers to your questions. So this installer will install Git, which is a tool that tracks changes to files. In Comfy UI, it helps developers safely update the main app and custom nodes, fix bugs without breaking everything, and lets you update or roll back to an earlier working version if a new update causes problems. Then it will install the Comfy UI portable version. A portable version means the program is fully self-contained in one folder, does not need a normal system install, and can be run, moved, backed up, or deleted without affecting the rest of your computer. In Comfy UI Portable, this means Python, libraries, models, and settings all live inside the Comfy UI folder, so you can copy it to another drive or PC, update it safely, and avoid breaking your system Python or Windows setup. Python Embedded means Comfy UI comes with its own built-in copy of Python already included inside the Comfy UI folder, instead of using the Python installed on your system. Then it will install all the nodes that are useful and that I tested over the last year. It might not make sense for you yet if you are a beginner, but do not worry. Take it as general knowledge for now, and it will make sense later. Then it will add an add-ons folder with more advanced stuff we can use later to speed up our generation, plus some extra tools that can be useful, and then more technical stuff explained for each one. But all you need to know for now is where to download it from and how to run the installer. It is important not to run it as administrator. That means you just double-click to run it, not right-click and run as administrator, but you will see that in a minute. Also, avoid system folders, and make sure your NVIDIA drivers are up to date, since some things work only with more recent NVIDIA drivers. Okay, let us go back to where it says Windows Installation, and let us download the latest release from here. Then, depending on how your browser is configured, it will either download it to the Downloads folder or ask you where to download it, and you can decide where to put it. As you will see over time, it needs a lot of space if you download big models, so I suggest downloading and installing your Comfy UI on a hard disk that has a lot of free space, and preferably on a solid-state drive, because it will load the models faster. I will go to my D drive, and I will create a new folder called Comfy UI, but this does not really matter. The name can be anything easy to remember. Sometimes I put Comfy UI followed by the month, so I know when I downloaded and installed it. So I will save this zip archive in that Comfy UI folder. Now let us go to the place where we saved the file. Since this is a zip archive, we need to unzip it. You right-click on it, and depending on what you prefer, you can use the Windows Integrated option and select Extract All. I like to delete the folder name at the end, so I do not end up with a folder inside another folder. When I click Extract, it will extract these two files. Let me delete it really quick and show you. If you have WinRAR like me, you just choose Extract here, and it does the same thing. Once we extracted everything, you can delete the easy install zip file. Now we are left with two files, a BAT file that is the installer, and a zip file that contains extra resources that it will use. When you run it, you might get a security warning. That usually happens with BAT or executable files because they install files on your system. This one is safe. I installed and tested it, and I personally know Evo, the creator of this installer. You can right-click and scan it with your antivirus, and you will see it is clean. So let us double-click on the BAT file, then press Run, and it will start installing. If you already have Git installed, it will update it. If not, you will get a window like this, and you have to press Yes to continue the installation. After that, it will continue the installation of Comfy UI and everything it needs to run. You can take a break for 3 to 5 minutes, depending on your internet speed and your computer. So how do you know when it is ready? You will see a message that says Installation Complete, along with the time it took. On my PC, it took 247 seconds. After that, you can press any key to exit. So let us recap really quick. From the GitHub page, you download the zip archive of the Easy installer. You create a folder named Comfy UI and place the downloaded zip archive in that folder. You extract the contents of the archive. You run the Comfy UI Easy Install BAT file, and if it asks to run GitHub, you press Yes. In a few minutes, the installation is complete, and you get this screen. Now after the installation, we can see that inside our Comfy UI folder, a new folder appeared called Comfy UI Easy Install. This is portable, which means you can copy this entire folder and move it to a different drive or folder, and it will still run Comfy UI. Basically, after you install any Comfy UI portable version, you should end up with a similar folder structure to this. Since Comfy UI is based on the Python programming language, you will see many Python files and BAT files inside these folders, which are used to run those Python files. The Easy installer will also create some shortcuts on your desktop. If you use other versions of Comfy UI, they might not do this, and you would need to create the shortcuts manually. That is one of the reasons I prefer the Easy installer. It makes everything easier for us. Basically, we just extracted an archive and ran a BAT file, and we now have Comfy UI. If we right-click on this shortcut and go to Properties, we can see the target of the shortcut. If we open the file location, you can see that it is connected to this BAT file that starts Comfy UI. In other versions of Comfy UI, the name might be different, like Run NVIDIA GPU or something similar. Are you ready for your first Comfy UI launch? To start Comfy UI, you either use this BAT file called Start Comfy UI, or from the desktop you use this shortcut called Comfy UI Easy Installer. E and Z stand for Easy, and I stands for Installer. So double-click on it, and when it starts, it looks like this. The first time it will be a little slower, but after that it will start much faster. If you are curious by nature, you can find all kinds of information about your Comfy UI and your system when it runs. For example, you can see what operating system I am using, what Python version is running and where that Python is located, what the path to the Comfy UI folder is, where the user directory is, how much VRAM you have, how much system RAM you have, and the PyTorch and CUDA versions that are running. When it starts, this command window will be minimized to your taskbar, and Comfy UI will open in your default browser. The first time it opens, it will show you some templates made by Comfy UI that you can load. If you have run a workflow before, it will open that workflow by default. So the workflow you see open is the last one you used. A workflow is a set of connected nodes that tells Comfy UI what to do, step by step. Let us close this for now. You can open these templates or workflows from here later. Comfy UI is made of a few main areas. You do not need to memorize them. I am naming them so we can talk about the same things later. If we go to the top, you can see it says unsaved workflow. Basically, it is like a document that is empty at the moment, since we did not add any nodes yet. You can have multiple documents open, similar to what we have in Photoshop and other programs. We can click on this plus icon to create a new blank workflow. All these tabs on top are open workflows, and we can close, save, and edit each one. Now, this grid, like empty space, is called the canvas. Instead of drawing on it, we will arrange blocks or nodes, like using Lego pieces, and connect things together to create a working workflow. You can use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out on the canvas. Then we have this top bar. Depending on what extensions you have installed, it might look different and have more options. Things like the manager or the run button, which lets us run workflows, are usually here. On the bottom right, we have view controls. For example, we have a select tool that lets us select nodes, and a hand tool that lets us navigate the canvas. You can fit a workflow in view, but right now the canvas is empty. We also have different zoom controls that you can use if you do not want to use the mouse wheel, or if you do not have one. For me, the mouse wheel is the fastest and the one I prefer. Then we have the Show Minimap option. This shows a small map that we can use to navigate when we have very large workflows. There is also Hide Links, but since we do not have any nodes or links yet, we will see that later. An important one is the main menu, which you open by clicking on the letter C, the Comfy UI logo. We also have more options on the left sidebar for nodes, models, and workflows, which we will explore soon. Back to the main menu. If we click on the C, we get this menu. New creates a new workflow, but it is faster to use the plus sign from the top bar. For File, it allows us to open, save, and export the workflows we create. For Edit, you can undo actions like moving nodes or changing something in the workflow, clear the workflow, and unload models. For View, we can enable and disable different panels, and we also have zoom in and zoom out controls. Just like in Photoshop, we can do the same things in multiple ways. It is the same with Comfy UI. For Theme, you can change how it looks, but at the beginning, I suggest leaving it on default so it is easier to follow tutorials. Nodes 2 is in beta at the moment of this recording and still has some bugs, so I suggest leaving it off until it is more stable. You can browse templates and open settings, which we can explore later. For now, the default settings work fine. Templates and settings can also be accessed from here, so again, there are multiple ways to access the same things. In some newer versions, some people might use a newer manager, and it might appear somewhere else instead of here. For now, I am using the old manager, which appears here. Under Help, you can also find help options, but you will see later in this video how to ask questions and get help. We also have a console, sometimes called the bottom panel, where you can see exactly what has happened since we opened Comfy UI. If we look at the taskbar and open the command window from there, it shows the same information. One view is at the bottom, and the other is in the taskbar. To close Comfy UI, I recommend opening the command window from the taskbar and closing it. You will then see a reconnecting message in the browser because it cannot find Comfy UI running anymore. After that, you can close the browser window. You can also close the browser window first and then close the command window. It is time to test our first ready-made workflow. Later, I will explain in detail what nodes are and what they do. So let us start Comfy UI, wait for it to finish loading, and get the interface. To open a workflow, you have different options. You can drag a workflow directly onto the canvas, or you can go to the menu, then File, and choose Open. All workflows for Comfy UI have the extension .json. JSON means JavaScript Object Notation. It is a simple text format used to store and share data in a way that both humans and computers can easily read. In Comfy UI, JSON is important because workflows are saved as .json files. These files store all your nodes, connections, settings, and prompts so you can reload, share, or edit a workflow later. I will include these workflows for free on Discord for those who use a different Comfy UI version. For example, I can open this first workflow, and you can see that it opens with all the nodes and links ready to be used. You can use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out to see the entire workflow. You can click outside the nodes, somewhere on the canvas, and drag to move around. You can also use this hand tool, which I personally never use. With the hand tool, you can pan around the canvas. With the normal mouse cursor, you can select nodes and move them around. We will talk more about that later. Now we have the workflow open in this tab, and you can see its name at the top. With the X button, you can close the workflow and go back to a new empty one. If we go to the sidebar and click on Workflows, I can open this folder called Getting Started, which I prepared for you for this episode. Only the Easy installer comes with these workflows, so if you are using a different version, you can get the workflows from Discord. You can also make the sidebar wider if you want to see the full text. I added a few workflows here to test in this episode. This one is just a help file with notes and useful information that we will use later in the video. Let us close it and open the one with number 1 in front, called Juggernaut Reborn. If I click on Workflows again, the sidebar collapses. Now let us move around using the mouse, left-click and drag to see it better. Each of these blocks is called a node. All nodes are connected to each other using links, those small cables that go from one node to another. Usually, a workflow is built from left to right. When you run a workflow, it processes from left to right. If something does not work or the workflow is broken, Comfy UI tells you where the problem is. Think of it like a car dashboard. If a door is open or a light bulb is not working, you get a warning icon. It is the same here. Errors look like this. It says prompt execution failed, and it also tells you something like value not in the list. These are some of the simplest errors to fix. It is like the car telling you a light bulb is missing. In Comfy UI, it means a specific value, object, or file could not be found. In our case, it could not find the checkpoint name, which is the model name, the brain as we called it. Comfy UI workflows include all the nodes and settings, basically the interface, but they do not include the models themselves. Those brain or engine files are not included. Since workflows are just JSON text files, they cannot include images or large files like models. In this node called Load Checkpoint, the checkpoint is just a model file, the brain we talked about. Even if I click here, I cannot select anything because it is not in the list. That means the model is not downloaded yet, or it is downloaded but placed in the wrong folder. Since I did not download any models yet, it is clear I do not have it. That is why when I share a workflow with you, I include a note that tells you exactly what you need to download for the workflow to work. Not everyone on the internet does this, but most good workflow creators do. The way I organize it is like this. I tell you where the model needs to be downloaded and which node loads it. It says Load Checkpoint, which is the node name, then it tells you the model name you need to download. There is a button that says Here, and then it tells you exactly which folder to place it in, and which folder to create if it does not exist. That is enough theory. Let us download the model. You already saw where it needs to be placed, but how do you find that folder? You need to find your Comfy UI folder. This depends on where you installed it, on which drive, and in which folder. You navigate until you find the Comfy UI folder. In our case, it is inside the Comfy UI Easy Install folder. If we go inside, we see many folders that Comfy UI needs to run. We have an output folder, where generated images are saved. We have an input folder, where input images are stored. We also have a models folder, where all downloaded models go. Inside the models folder, you can see many subfolders for different types of models. Over time, you will learn what each one is for. That is why I included the note, so you know exactly where to put the model without guessing. For this workflow, the model goes into the checkpoints folder. We could just save it directly there and it would work. But from my previous tutorials, I learned that over time you will download many models and it becomes hard to keep track of them. That is why I like to organize models in subfolders. In this case, I know this model is based on Stable Diffusion 1.5, so I will create an SD15 folder and place the model inside it. Now we wait for the model to download. Some models are a few gigabytes in size. After that, we go back to Comfy UI. You can see I placed the model exactly where the instructions said, so Comfy UI can recognize it. If Comfy UI was closed, reopening it would automatically detect the model. But since Comfy UI is already open, it will not see the new model yet. We need to refresh it. To do that, press the R key. You will see that the node definitions update. Now when I click here, I can see the model name and select it. Right now there is only one model, but later you will have a drop-down list with many options. Now the model is selected, and it is time to run the workflow again. By the way, you can move the Run button anywhere you want on the canvas using the small dots on its side. If you prefer it docked, you can dock it back to the top bar. Let us run it again and see if it works. Everything turns green. Each node runs from left to right, and no red nodes appear. That means the workflow ran successfully, and we generated our first image. The model we use in this chapter is quite old and small. Later, we will use smarter and more advanced models. For practice, this one is good enough because it is fast and can run on smaller computers that do not have a lot of VRAM. Each time I press Run, I get a new image because we have a random seed here. Do not worry about this yet, I will explain it later. So, now we can generate an image with Comfy UI, and all of this comes from a simple text called a prompt. Basically, we used a few nodes with specific settings and a model trained for this type of image generation. We can change the prompt, for example, photo of a cat, close up. Now when I run the workflow, I should get a cat. The more VRAM you have, the faster it will generate. We can see the generated images here, but they are also saved locally. If we look at the output folder, we have a shortcut to it on the desktop. Inside that folder, we can see all the images we generated so far. Let us go back to Comfy UI and close this workflow. I do not want to save it because I liked the prompts and settings it had before, so I choose No. Now we are left with an empty workflow, or you can click on the plus sign to create a new blank workflow. Before we move to the next chapter, I recommend taking a short break. Research shows that short pauses help your brain process and retain new information. Grab a coffee, get some water, or take a quick bathroom break, then come back and continue. This chapter is about understanding the building blocks of Comfy UI and how they connect to form a workflow. We are in Comfy UI, and we have this blank canvas and workflow. To add a node, you double-click on the canvas, and it will open a search box that lets you search for a node. For example, if I type the word load, it shows me load image, load checkpoint, and all kinds of nodes that let us load something. If we click on the load image node, it will be added to the workflow. The position where it is added depends on where you double-click on the canvas. You can also move it after. You just left-click on a node, hold the left mouse button, drag it to where you want it, and then release the button. To deselect a node, you just click anywhere on the empty canvas. For me, that is the fastest way to add a node, but there are other methods. For example, I can right-click on the canvas in an empty area and get this menu. From here, I can go to Add Node, then I see different categories. If I click on the image category, I can find the Load Image node. It is right here, and if I click on it, it gets added to the canvas. After that, you can move it and arrange it wherever you want. Another method is to use the node library in the left sidebar. Here, we have all these categories. If I click on the image category, I can see the Load Image node. This is a good option if you do not know exactly which node you are looking for. You can also search for a node here to filter the list, then add the node or drag it onto the canvas. Out of all these methods, my favorite is still the double-click on the canvas. Once a node is selected, you also have the option to delete it using this icon. You can also use the Delete key or the backspace key to delete a node after you select it. The Load Image node is how we bring an existing image into Comfy UI so other nodes can work with it. Each node has a title at the top that tells you what it does. Below that, it has controls, inputs, and outputs that connect it to the rest of the workflow. Let us double-click on the canvas again and add another node. This time, I will search for crop, and we get this node called Image Crop. You can probably guess what it does. It crops the image that we loaded. You can change the image using this button and upload any image you want. If something goes into a node, it is called an input. If something comes out of a node, it is called an output.